Good morning, children. I hope you all are doing well. Now, children, just for a minute, relax yourself, sit comfortably, keep your posture upright. Now, keep your back straight, your feet should touch the ground. Please don't lie on the bed, okay? Now, just for a minute, you sit comfortably and you relax, thereby inviting your senses to relax, meeting them as your friends, appreciating the work they do. You choose to give them a break. You imagine closing the motorways of your senses. Your thoughts begins to slow down. Your mind becomes clear. For few moments, nothing is moving. Your mind is free, resting, and now you return with clarity. So, children, now as the mind is relaxed, we now just start the class. Before I start the class, there is a beautiful thought I want to share with you. That is, the goal of meditation isn't to control your thoughts, it is to stop letting them control you. This means that when we do meditation, right, whatever thoughts we have in our mind, let those thoughts not control our mind, let these thoughts not empower us. Only keep the good thoughts, right? When we do meditation, the purpose is that the thoughts we have, they should not control us. We should know which thoughts are good for us, which are not, and we should let the negative thoughts go out of our mind so that they don't control us. Okay, so with this thought, we move on to the next general instructions, as generally we do discuss or we do go through them. First of all, children, please, it's a humble request, turn off your audio and video the moment you join the session. Second thing is that please rename yourself as soon as you join the session. The order we have been telling you again and again, but still somewhere we find certain children who are not following the instructions properly. So this is not accepted at this time, children. Please do that. The order should be your name will come first, your admission number, and then your class and section. Please mention all these things because it becomes easy for us to identify the children of a particular section. Then next, any query if you have related to the class, right? Please send that query on my email ID. It's ashishavasan@lancesconvent.net. It's mentioned below. And do not raise hands in between the session. Last, the most important, please maintain the decorum and discipline of the virtual class. I hope you all will specially follow these instructions. Thank you. Now, children, last class which I had, I'm just taking you back to the last slide I covered so that you are in sync with today's topic because it's in continuity. Okay. So in the previous class, I just did what I covered was the education sector in India, and there I covered that there is a growth in government expenditure on education. That means government is also making all efforts to promote education in our country and to reach this goal. To achieve this goal, our government is spending so much of money. Firstly, expenditure which government is spending on education can be measured in two ways as such. First, it can be measured as a percentage of total government expenditure. That means whatever the expenditure of the government is, right? Including transportation, including what all it is incurring on agriculture sector, industrial sector, all the expenditure government is incurring, what how much part does or it is spending for education, right? How much part of that expenditure is being used for the development of education sector? That is the first way of measuring this expenditure, right? And as the figure says, that data which we have, it says that from 1952 to the year 2014, this expenditure has increased from 7.92% to 15.7%. Okay. Second way of measuring this expenditure is that as a as a percentage of GDP. Now, GDP, as we say, can also be called as the income, right? So, whatever income government gets, how much out of that income, how much portion of that income is being used for the development of education. And education, especially we talk about the elementary education. Elementary education means the education up to the age group of 14 years. Basically, it is 6 to 14 years of age. Children taking education in these age group form or they come under elementary education, right? So even this income, the part of income government is earning, more part of this income is being used for the development of elementary education. That is that is from 0.64% to 4.3%, right? Now we further can say, or we have, by just witnessing these data, we can very easily say that our government is spending more on elementary education, right? And its share of higher or tertiary education is the least because most of the people don't reach up to that level, right? So that is why government is spending more on elementary education. But government should keep in mind that even the tertiary education is also very important, because we have in the tertiary education, we have all the professionals that are being trained. So if government is not spending much money on the development of tertiary education, that means these people will not get good training. They will not become good professionals, right? They'll not be trained properly. And when they do the field work, actually when they work with very less of training, the results will not be good. So expenditure on all levels of education is important, and for this reason government should spend more expenditure on the education sector. And we also see that there is difference in educational opportunities across states. We have I think we took that example of Himachal Pradesh and Bihar, right? In Himachal Pradesh, per capita expenditure, per capita means per person, right? What a single person is spending on his education comes out to be rupees 34,651 rupees in Himachal Pradesh, and in Bihar it is 4,088 rupees, which is very less, right? So therefore we see, when we see that different states are incurring different amount of expenditure on education, the results are that Some people who are the people who are spending more on education are capable enough to get good jobs. Now, next we have with us, in continuation of the previous slide, we have that the expenditure our government is incurring on education is inadequate. That is, it is very less, right? Because the education commission that was set up in 1964-66, that means almost 50 years back, this commission was set up. And at that time, right, please understand, at that time this commission recommended that our government should spend at least 6% of its GDP on the education sector. That means 50 years back, that is during the time period 64-66, at that time it was projected, it was proposed that the whatever the GDP of the country was, of that 6% should be used on education, right? But at present, if we see the current level of the current level of expenditure of our government is only 4% of its GDP, which is very less. Means 50, we are not able to fulfill the target that we set 50 years back, right? So in 66, we were supposed, in the years 1966, we were supposed to spend 6% of our GDP. But even today, after so many years and so much of development, we are still not able to meet that target, right? We are still falling short of that target, which is very less. 4% just we are spending on of our GDP, we are spending on education sector, right? So basically 6% was targeted so as to make a noticeable growth in the education sector. Now, to keep this target, to meet this target, in 2009, the government of India enacted Right to Education Act, right? Now, what does the Right to Education Act says? This act, first of all, you should know that 6% of GDP was to be incurred. But presently, the current level is 4%. Another thing which we need to note is that in 2009, to encourage people take more education, right? In 2009, the government passed or government enacted a law, that is Right to Education Act. Now, under this act says that this act basically says to make education a free and a fundamental right to all the children in the age group of 6 to 14 years. That means children who are in the age group of 6 to 14 years should be given free education, and to take this free education is their fundamental right. Nobody can deny them giving free education. Okay, so this act was enacted basically to increase the literacy rate in the country. Then, now, as I said that the current level of 4% is we are spending on education. Now to make it 6%, okay, to make it 6%, 2% education cess has been levied on all union taxes. Okay, that means to make this 4% equivalent to 6%, government has levied a 2% education cess on all union taxes. Now, what is cess? Right? Cess basically means, or the basic meaning, literal meaning of cess is assess. Okay. Now, it means tax on tax, means whatever taxes have already been levied, on those taxes, another tax is being levied. So tax on tax is what we mean by the word cess. Okay. Now this was an official term that was used in Ireland when it was a part of UK, right? But just keep this thing in mind that tax on tax is called as cess. Now 2% cess, education cess on all union taxes. This means that whatever is the income of the central government from all the taxes, right? Whatever is the income of central government from all the taxes, government further levies 2% tax on that income. Okay, so this is tax on tax, right? Now education, that is what we call as 2% education tax. Okay, now the amount which the government will be getting in the form of 2% education tax, this amount is being reserved, or we can also call this amount is being earmarked, right? Earmarked or reserved means the same thing, right? And this amount will be used for elementary education. This amount will be used to give elementary education to people. Okay, but of late, in the year 2017, the with the coming up of GST, right? This all these taxes were subsumed under it, right? So now even this 2% education cess is been subsumed, merged, or combined, or it has been covered under GST. It's no more a separate tax now. Okay, so this was the expenditure we were talking about, right? And Right to Education Act. Now this is the table, it is in your book also, table 5.2, right? Now this table shows the educational attainment in India. Now when we measure achievements or educational achievements in India, it can be measured through three parameters. First, we have adult literacy rate, right? Now, this table, we'll be referring to this table in the next topics also. So please understand this table very carefully. Okay. So first component is adult literacy rate. Adult literacy rate means that it's basically the percentage of people who are in the age group of 15 years and above, right? Those adults who are above the age of 15 years and have education will be considered in this category, right? Now, if you see the figures, right? Male, it is in 1990, it was 61.9. See, all these figures, right? I'm talking, sorry, all these figures I'm talking about, right? These all figures are in percentages. Okay. So in 1990, it was 61.9, and in 2015, it increased to 81. This means that out 81%, right? So percent, whenever we are using the word, that means we are talking out of 100, right? So out of 100 adult males, right? Out of 100 adult males, 81 males are literate in the age group of 15 years and above. Okay. Similarly, if I talk about females, it was 37.9 in the year 1990 and increased to 63% in the year 2015. This means that in the year 2015, out of 100 adult females, adult, when I'm using the word, that means aged 15 plus. Okay, so those females who are above the age of 15 years, right? Among those 100 females, out of those 100 females, 63 females are literate. So that means we see in every parameter, if we see, the values are increasing. Okay. So primary completion rate basically means that the age group up to the age group of 14 to 15 years, right? So those children who are whom we covered up to the age of 15 years approximately will fall under the category of primary completion rate. Okay, and then even these figures are increasing. Okay, then youth literacy, that is within the age group of 15 to 24 years, those people falling in the age group of 15 to 24 years, male and female, the figures have risen. Okay, so if we just consider or just we give a look at this table, educational achievements can be measured through three parameters. adult literacy, primary completion rate, and youth literacy rate. And if we look at these values, we see that these values are increasing. Okay, all these parameters are increasing. This means that the number of literate people are increasing in our country. Okay, so please just keep this thing in mind that in all these three categories, the number is increasing. Now, next we have is the future prospects in India. That means what can education do in our country, in our economy in future? That is the main aim of this particular topic, right? What education can do to people or to the economy in future. Now, when we talk about this, we say first one is education for all, still a distant dream, right? Education for all, still a distant dream means we have dreamt of that, or we say that our government is aiming to achieve 100% literacy rate, right? To achieve this literacy rate, we are although still not able to achieve this 100% literacy rate. So still it's a dream which is to be achieved, and in near future still we find that it is not possible in near future. It will still take few more years to reach this goal, right? So education for all means 100% literacy rate. Still a distant dream means it's yet to be achieved, right? In near future, it is not possible, although it will take some time, right? Then next we have here is that literacy rate for both adults and youths have increased. Now, when we see the previous, when I refer to the previous slide, so we have seen that literacy rate for both adults, youths have increased. By just looking into those figures, we conclude that the literacy rate in the country has increased. And second thing, what we conclude is that still the absolute number of literates in India is as much as India's population at the time of independence. This means that although the literacy rates have increased, but still the number of literates in our country is still pretty higher than, it is almost equal to the population of India at the time of independence. See, somewhere around at the time of independence, just if I talk about the year 1915, in the year 1950, the population of India was around 33 crores, right? Not exact, I'm telling you. I'm saying it was approximately 33 crores. So at that time, the population at the time of independence, the population was 33 crores. And this is the same rate of illiterate people today in our country. Okay. Next, we have here is gender equity better than before. Gender equity basically means that the benefits or the opportunities given to male and female in terms of education. This is what we mean by gender equity, right? And it is better than before. Better than before means that earlier women were not, females were not allowed to take education, but now if we just get back to table 5.2, we will see there that in every category, even more females are becoming literate. So that is why we are saying that it is better than before, right? Now, there is a difference between male and female literacy rate, right? But that rate is narrowing down, that is reducing. Okay. Now that difference between females and male who are taking education is becoming narrower day by day, right? Then we say there is a need for women to acquire or take education. Women should take education because it will have two benefits, right? The first benefit is that it will improve their economic independence and it will improve their social status, right? Economic independence basically means that if women are educated, if women are educated, so in that case, sorry, they are educated, so they will not be depending on others for their needs. They will be earning money, and with this income of their own they will be spending according to their needs. So this is economic independence. And secondly, if women are educated, their status in society will improve, people will respect them, right? And they will also enjoy a better status. So that is the first reason why we say that women needs to be educated. We should promote women education. That is why see government is starting Beti Padhao, जो mission hai that is being started, Beti Bachao Beti Padhao, that is being the reason behind it. Second is that it makes a favorable impact on fertility rate. When we have more number of women educated, the fertility rate, that is the number of children a woman can bear, right, that rate will decrease. They'll come to know about the benefits of good family, or sorry, they'll come to know about the benefits of small family, and thus they will go in for lesser number of children. And plus, side by side, they'll be able to take good health care, right? They'll be able to take good care of their children also. So these are the two reasons for which we say that gender equity is better than before, plus there is a need for women to be educated. And the last prospect we have here is higher education, a few takers. Now, higher education means in our country, there are quite a large number of people who are taking elementary education. But as we move up the ladder, as we move up the ladder, we see the number of children acquiring higher education, that number falls, that goes on falling. So that is higher education means we are talking about tertiary level education, right? So there we have very few number of children, or let's say few takers as compared to elementary level. Elementary level, as I said, basically it is 6 to 14 years. That is your schooling age. Okay. So now, as we see the pyramid, education pyramid, right? Now, when we look into this pyramid, we see that very less people, right? Very less people go for higher education. And so that is why we say that the education pyramid of India is steep. Steep means as we move up the pyramid, the number goes on decreasing. But at the bottom, we have maximum number of people, children, and that bottom level is your elementary education. So there are maximum takers of education are at the base level, right? Base level means that the primary education, right? So and as we move up, right, on this pyramid, we see lesser and lesser number of children who are going for higher education. So as per NSSO data, NSSO is National Sample Survey Organization. I repeat, NSSO is National Sample Survey Organization. Now, as per NSSO data in the year 2011 and 12, the rate of unemployment among youth males who studied graduation and above in rural areas was 19%. That means the out of 100 people who were in rural areas and who were educated. Educated means either they were graduate or much more than this, right? So please understand each and every word. So first of all, we are talking about the rural areas. People living in rural areas who are educated. Educated till which level? Minimum they are graduate, or even they have more qualifications. So out of this whole lot, 19% of these people are still unemployed. They are not getting employment. That means out of these 100%, 19% are unemployed. That means remaining 81% are employed. But if I'm saying this 81% of the people, or sorry, 81 persons are employed, these 81 persons are employed, but they are not employed gainfully, right? We are using the figures in percentage. That means out of this 100, 19 are unemployed. So remaining 81 are employed, but these 81 who are employed are not gainfully employed, right? Maybe they are working somewhere forcibly because they are not getting the employment matching their requirements, matching their qualifications. Sorry. Next, the same data in urban areas is 16%. That means out of 100 persons in urban areas who are educated, educated means minimum graduation is the qualification or even above that. So out of the educated lot in urban area, 100 persons, out of those 100 persons, only 16 persons are unemployed in urban areas. And in urban areas we have this percentage a little lesser, right? In urban areas this percentage is little less because of some organized sectors, because the job opportunities are pretty more in urban areas. MNCs are there who are working, so we have more job opportunities. So because of that, the percentage is less in urban areas, right? And the most severely affected are the rural female graduates, right? That means those females who are educated, who are graduate. Graduate means that they have completed their college, right? College BA degree, bachelor's degree, right? Those who have a bachelor's degree are called as graduates, right? So those female in rural areas who have completed their college, they come around 30%. These females are most severely affected. They are not getting employment. Okay. And only 3 to 6% of rural and urban primary level educated youth were unemployed. Okay. So that means rural and urban areas, in rural and urban areas, those people who have, let's say, primary education, right? They are, out of that whole lot, only 3 to 6% of people are unemployed. This means that the conclusion that we can draw from all the data above is that we have lesser number of unemployed people among the category where people have not acquired much education. Means less educated people, those who are less educated, are maximum, let's say, those who are less educated have more employment because they don't mind taking one or the other job. But once we have more education, we are not, we say we don't prefer to do jobs, menial jobs. We are not, we don't prefer to do those menial jobs once we have education. So those, that is the reason why only 3 to 6% of rural and urban primary level educated youth were unemployed. Okay, so that is the main reason. So now what government should do is government should increase allocation, or government should increase its expenditure on higher education, right? Thereby to improve the standard of higher education institutions. Okay, so with this, children, I wind up the chapter, right? So future prospects, we have three areas to be covered. I'm just taking you back. Future prospects, right? First, education for all, a distant dream. That is, we still need to achieve 100% literacy rate, right? And then literacy rate for both adults and youths although have increased, but still the absolute number of illiterate is in India is still the same, that is 33 crores of people are still illiterate. Okay. Second is gender equity better than before, that is females should also females and males. If we talk about the literacy rate among these two genders, it is better, it is favorable for females as well, right? It has increased, right? And for this reason we say that women education needs to be promoted. Reasons we have covered, because so that they will have economic independence and they will enjoy a better status in the society. Second reason why we need to promote women education is that it will make a favorable impact on fertility rate. Means that if women are educated, it will help us to bring down the population growth rate, and women will be able to take good care of themselves as well as of their children. Then higher education, a few takers. This means that the number of people going for higher education is very less in our country. We need to expand this also, right? And in urban areas and rural areas, we have taken up the various figures. The conclusion I'm talking about is that only the people who are less educated are more employed because they take up any type of job. So those who are educated, they will not pull a rickshaw or they will not pick that garbage from the streets, those who are educated. But those who are uneducated will easily do that. Okay. So they will accept any type of job, those who are uneducated or less educated, if I talk about. But those who are more educated will not go into any job or profession. Now, children, I would like to just carry on with the project now, right? You have to make a project. First of all, each child will make one project, individual projects I have. Okay. Now, see, these are the topics which we have with us, right? There are 15 topics. Along with that, I have mentioned the roll numbers in every section. Like I have said, I have marked that roll number 11631 will take up the first topic, micro and small scale industries in India. Then roll number 217 and 32. In every section I'm talking about, they will make a project on Goods and Services Tax Act and its impact on GDP, right? 31833, like this, Human Development Index, right? 41934, roll numbers, right? They will go for self-help groups and monetary policy committee and its functions, roll number 52035, right? So government budget, please look where your roll number is, and against that, whatever topic is being written, you have to make the project. Now, when you are making the project, please be sure there are certain things which you need to follow. First of all, the project should be simple yet informative. Okay, no need of decorating it with all the stones, shells, and everything, that those bulky things. No, nothing of that sort. Project is to be made individually, very clear, right? Secondly, please don't use black colored base sheets. Okay, use white colored base sheets, and you will be submitting this project when the school reopens. Not when the school reopens, we'll just, I'll let you know, but in the folder you people have been given, you'll be using that folder for when you are submitting your project. Okay, so please be careful about the size of sheets you are using. Those sheets should fit into that folder. Okay. Then next is that when you are making the project, your project will contain basically, right? You can pick up the material from the news media, right? The news, you can download the app, Times of India app, Hindustan Times app, Economic Times app, and from there, if any matter you get relevant to your project topic, just take a print of it, okay, or save it for the time being. Later on you can take the print, right, when you have the facility. Okay, so you can take the matter from some matter you can take from news media, the government policy, like in case of budgetary policy, in case of monetary policy. Then you can use RBI bulletin, Niti Aayog reports, IMF, World Bank reports. These all are available on net, right? Your project needs to be, or it should be handwritten. Okay, right? Please don't give all the printed matter. Okay, and quote the source of the information to ensure authenticity of research work. Means if you are using some information, whatever information you are putting in your project, you have taken extracted that information from Niti Aayog report, right? So please mention below, there itself mention that source Niti Aayog report, right? Or government policy, which policy you are referring to. So mention that report so that the information becomes authentic. It appears to be authentic. Okay. Now, your scope of the project basically means that when you are making the project, please follow the sequence given below. First of all, will be the cover page where the title of the project will be written. Okay, sorry, here the title will be written, and on the second page will be of acknowledgement, right? Then third page will be of certificate, and the fourth page will be index, right? So first is cover page, second acknowledgement, third certificate, and fourth will be index. Okay, now once we go with this, right, now these 4 pages will not be counted in the content, right? So basic matter you are giving in the project, that should be minimum of 20 pages. Minimum, I am saying. Okay, and please don't write back to back, right, on the sheets, right? On your left hand side sheets, you can paste some articles, some information, some questions, inquisitive questions related to the topic you have taken up, which people, maybe most of the people are not aware of those, right? So did you know, like we get something na, in the newspapers also, did you know, and then some question is there which is not very common, which most of us are not aware of, the answer we people don't know. So related to the topic, you can put up some questions of those sorts, some articles or the news that is there, okay, related to the topics. So something like that will go on the left hand side page. Right hand side page will be in your own handwriting. You will be writing the content, the matter of the project. Okay, so after now the third point is collection of the research material data. Now, collection of data we have done, collection, organization, presentation, and analysis, right? This all we have done in statistics in class 11. So we will be using those skills now in your project. Okay, so collection of data basically means that the objective of the project, this should help you to determine, right? With this objective, you should be able to know whether the data collected should be undertaken by following or by adopting primary method, secondary method, or both the methods, right? If you are doing some survey, if you are collecting some information, so for that reason, whether you want to go for the primary method or for the secondary method, or in some areas you are using primary method and in some you are using secondary. So that method you have to keep in mind, that method should be relevant to the research you are doing, right? Then next we have the organization of data. Organization of data, under this you will be the data you have collected, right, should be organized, right? Organized means delete or strike off all the unnecessary matter, or wherever some editing is required, do that editing in the data, in the information you gather, the no, the content you gather. You can even make some deletions, make some additions on your own, but they should be related to the relevant to your project or to the topic. Then presentation or present material, what you have gathered, or present the data. Whatever content you have gathered, present that content in a very uh, presentable manner, right? Maybe in the form of diagrams, maybe in the form of tables, graphs, like that, right? That you can do. Plus it should be handwritten. Please write legibly. Okay, right? Make sure that your writing is, or it can be read by everyone. Okay, then next you need to analyze the data you have gathered, or to draw conclusions, right? Conclusion means, in your opinion, what do you think about the project? Okay, right? Like government has adopted certain monetary policies. Then how can these policies be used for controlling the situation of inflation or deflation in the economy? Then you can then conclude by saying, in my opinion, if these policies would have been used in this way, or some better policy you have in your mind, you can pen it down in your project, and this is what you conclude, right? This is what we say, draw the relevant conclusion, right? And then arrange your project in the sequence that is being given above. That is, presentation of the project work should be very neat and tidy. Okay, now there is a marking scheme how the projects will be marked. So while you are making the project, please keep this thing in mind. I hope you all know that your project is of 20 marks. It's very easy to score, let's say, marks here, right? First of all, out of these 20 marks, these 12 marks are very in your hands. Basically, these 12 marks are in your hands, and then you can fight for these 8 marks later. Okay, so why not take these 12 on 12? Okay, so relevance of the topic will contain 3 marks. That means the topic you have selected, how much that topic is relevant to the project you have made. Okay, so that relevance of the topic with your project will be of 3 marks. Then the knowledge content or the research work, whatever matter is there in your project, right? The content you have gathered, right? So that content, what is the quality of that content, right? That whole content will be of 6 marks. So please, when you are gathering information, okay, children, when you are gathering information, please be very careful that this information will be assessed for 6 marks. Okay, so please don't give any irrelevant part just to fill up the pages. No, we don't want that. Okay, now next is the presentation technique. Presentation technique basically means how you have presented the project, right? How much articles you have given, extra information you have given, if you have used bar diagrams, if you have some used some pictures related to the project, right? So, or how that project has been presented, right? Please don't make it very colorful, right? Project should not be very colorful, like on a single page you are using so many colored pens. No, don't use that. I right in the beginning I said, make it simple but needs to be informative. But simple at the same time does not means that it should look very let's say black and white type of a thing. Okay, it should not be, right? A little bit of creativity needs to be there in the project. Okay, now, next is that presentation. Basically, this is what I wanted to cover, right? And last is your Viva. When you have the board practicals, or when you have the practicals also in the school also. So Viva will be from the file itself. Okay, that means whatever you have written in the file, questions will be asked from there only, right? Now the questions they'll be asked, the any teacher, be it in your external, be it your internal teacher, anyone can ask questions from your file, whatever the content is there, right? So that is the main criteria, means you should be thorough with the file also. Okay, it should not be that you have made the file and okay, the work has been done. No, you need to understand each and everything in the file. Okay, so this was the basically the marking, how the project will be marked. So keeping all the marking, keeping the marking of the project and the scope of the project in mind, right? Please start working. Anytime you feel like that you are stuck somewhere, you have some doubts, you can, you feel free to get back to me, right? Anytime you have any problem, just send it on my email ID. I'll answer your queries, right? And if you want that, you need further clarifications, all that will be sorted out through mails. Okay, so please make your own project, and all the best for making the projects, and do the assignments that have been given in the study material. Okay, do all the assignments. So with this I wind up, children. Stay safe, stay happy. Thank you.